Call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, June 1st, 2023. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Evening.
Next to Jessica is Ed McGarty, a voting member.
Hello.
To my left, Ernie Angelos, solicitor.
Good evening.
To my right, Jesse Poynton, a voting member.
Evening.
To my far right, Kelly Kirk, Director of Codes Enforcement. And Margie Buchanan. We have two cases listed tonight. Both are continued. One case, Z23-06, Parks Best Car Wash. And I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless somebody specifically requests that I do so. That case was withdrawn, right, Ernie?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
We received correspondence from Mr. Lavin earlier this afternoon advising that the applicant is withdrawing that application.
Which leaves us with case Z23-05, DMG Elite Properties LLC. And I also will not read the rest of the description into the record unless they specifically request that I do so. George, how are you? Oh, yep. Ed, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Go ahead, George.
Good evening. Thank you. I just wanted to take a couple minutes at the beginning here and hopefully bring everyone back up to speed and explain a couple nuances at the beginning of tonight, and then let Dan present a lot of the hard work he's been doing over the past couple of weeks with respect to some of the questions that were asked and things like that. I guess the first thing I would want to do is address the building itself and the status of the building. What we did with Kelly Kirk's help early on in this process was go through the township's files through the lamplighter, which some of you know has been extensively discussed between the two parties. How's that? We found, and what we did was we found a drawing dated March 13th, 2002, which was an approved drawing by the township for the outline of the drawing of the building, the footprint, and everything when the decks were added to the building. So we believe this is an approved drawing of the structure as built. And I know there were a lot of requests for variances and things like that. What I have proposed, and I actually talked to Mr. Angelos beforehand, is that we can prepare a long list of them. But I'd like to do that in conjunction with the township, so everybody's on the same wavelength as to what was approved, what wasn't approved, or what the historical status of the building was. From our standpoint, what we are doing is essentially taking the existing footprint, and instead of having it one story, and if you see in the photos up on the screen, the footprint, the bottom story footprint is staying the same. We are essentially raising that up 2 more stories above it, putting a flat roof on it. So that's just to bring everybody up to speed. That's kind of where we are, and I think.
And the photos that you were referring to, George, they're part of Exhibit A4, correct?
Yes, there's the proposed front elevation shows you what we're doing. The actual footprint, the base will be the same as was approved back here in 2002, but we are raising the entire structure 3 stories, flat roof and so on.
May I interrupt?
Sure.
The drawing that you're referring to, you said it was in regards to a deck, and that was the deck what the township approved?
The deck was approved.
Okay, but
The installation, the physical structure of the deck, as I understand it, was approved.
you guys are not keeping the deck, right? We're talking about the building. So
We're keeping the outside measurements of the deck and building walls on.
but it sounds like you're trying to say that the township approved the building as built when it was really, sounds like it was submitted for a deck. So I don't know, that sounds like a leap.
They approved this structure and the addition of the deck, which was actually not going to be a deck. It was going to be an outside dining for the restaurant, and the use is approved. But the structure itself and the size and the scope of the structure was approved by the township.
The deck structure, right?
Of the entire building. the addition of the deck to the existing structure.
He's talking about the footprint, just the footprint.
What was this drawing submitted for? What was the purpose of the submission of that drawing to the township for their
It's
review?
Township file number 56.
That doesn't help me.
9793. It was for consulting structural engineering, I believe, for the addition of a deck is what I get from reading it. I can, we'll have copies and we can. Essentially, I believe the township approved the outside.
Come, we're not certain about that, because it was, my recollection, he was in court because he claimed that this deck wasn't a deck, it was a fire escape.
Correct. But the use was disapproved. He wanted to use it as an outside dining.
But we don't know, I don't know that that meant that they approved the deck or it was built and they caught
So
him.
they approved the drawing. They approved the structure as built.
We don't know.
according to this.
But what you're saying is that a variance request for a deck was approved, and that means that the township approved the entire footprint of the building, because that could have been presented as existing. Am I correct, Kelly?
It would have been. It would have been existing nonconformity.
I'm confused by your question. The township approved the structure as it's built now.
The deck structure.
The entire structure. The addition of a deck, a physical structure that required structural engineering.
Correct. The deck structure they approved.
Right, which is now the outline and the footprint of the building. That is the building, the exterior deck. I mean, you can see it in pages. It is what is added on to the building itself. They have the second floor plan, walls are being removed. This is, the framing for the second floor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lavin, your back is to me. I can't, your voice is projecting that way.
And you turn the mic off. So.
And with full-size drawings, but this essentially approves the size and physical structure of the building back in 2002.
Well, and George, I mean, we don't have to make a determination on that. So it speaks for itself. Are you going to move those into evidence?
Yes.
Because then,
I would move this in as whatever the next exhibit is. I'm not sure what.
and I would ask you to confirm, I have the last marked exhibit at A4. Is that consistent with? So this would be A5. So. Understand it myself.
George, just so we're clear for the record,
Yes.
could you clearly identify what it is that those actually are? Are they preliminary final plans?
I think these are approved, signed off.
I'm sorry. They are approved.
Plans approving the construction. We would have to go through, but that's.
I mean, A5, first page is just cited as a site plan. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It is stamped plan approval. Noting this plan has been given the following acts, regulations of any change and alterations these plans would affect prior submitted to the department for approval. Dated 3/13/02, file number 369793. Does not appear to be a land development plan, but if it's for a deck and framing, I'm not sure that they probably need to go through land development on that. It might just be a permitting question plan.
I know there's confusion about what this applies to because of the resulting litigation. That's the basis of our design. And the parking spots.
No, they're reported, so, and I don't think necessarily notes that they're as built. But they do appear to be site plans with a joist removal plan, section and detail plan, basement plan, first floor plan, first floor framing, which appears to be the building itself. Second floor and deck plan made part of that, and then deck framing, second floor framing, and third floor plan. So it appears to be plans for the overall site, but it doesn't appear to be a land development plan. I would say it's admissible, and we give it whatever weight board deems appropriate, but it does appear to be a approved plan.
Ernie, it looks
Could
like,
I ask a question though, Kelly? I don't know what approval, he left?
Kelly went to get more information.
Okay, the question is, Marge, is, did the township keep copies of denied plans in the files too?
They should be there. That may be what Kelly went for.
Thank you.
There's a large amount of files.
Right.
Ernie, and also, just, for the record, it looks like that these are also stamped by a professional engineer, James T. Smith.
Yes, they are.
So really, I mean, I'm not trying to dispute the, the approval. I'm just saying that was the basis of our design and updates to the structure. So we started with that at the baseline, and, I do agree it'd probably be good for everyone involved to have some sort of analysis of all the changes and variances that were approved up through the thing. But what I'm trying to do here is present the changes from that plan that we're proposing.
But this doesn't purport to represent a zoning hearing board approval of anything, right? Just that the township issued a permit for the,
Well, I think it's, I won't say a zoning hearing board approval, but a township approval of that plan on that site. I don't want to get into semantics, but
Well, it's
I believe it's a good faith, right.
Typically, what you'd have in connection with any type of land development or application plans, you'd have a permit that would be issued in connection with it, in addition to any type of resolution for the approval by the township of the land development plan. Certainly, we may be able to see if Kelly can locate them as well. I
Yeah,
presume.
no, and she helped us find these, and I think the other thing, and maybe, I don't know if you want to jump into and resolve this, or just move on to the next issue, because this, however you guys want to do that, we can jump on to something else, or,
well, I suppose I should ask, so what does this, with respect to the current case,
this,
what does this?
This essentially allows me the good faith belief to say that the setback issues were known and approved by the township. So I don't want to have to go get additional setback variances, because I believe they were already resolved in a prior life. I don't mind doing it, but, I think this shows what we walked into and got. And what we'd like to do is focus on what the changes we want to make to the existing site.
But to clarify, your setbacks that according to your testimony, this plan gives you is for a one-story structure only,
No, this is for a three-story structure.
but
This
not
is
on the
existing
entire
structure.
property.
I'm sorry?
The three-story structure is not on the entire property in that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Yeah, and we will explain that too. We've got some later exhibits that explain the changes to the square footage and overall size or volume, I guess I'd call it, of the structure itself.
So this is
That's,
for the purpose of the setback.
yes, the setbacks and the size and scope of the existing building. What my argument is that our expansion to the second and third floor are essentially bulk variance violations that are extending the existing variances or changes to some extent, and we can explain what they are and why we're doing that.
And just to kind of clear the record, you would agree that it does indicate it's a site plan. It doesn't seem to be a preliminary final land development plan.
Yeah,
We don't
and
have a
that-
resolution
that's-
submitted with it.
Right, and one of the issues, I think, maybe with this submission also, is I know there's a process for doing a special exception by going to the planning board first and getting their approval. If the board thinks something like that is a better, I'm very flexible as how we do this in the most efficient manner. We have run it by some of the planning board, and, so whatever y'all think, we're fine with doing.
Do you have any other questions about these?
Well, I want to hear more.
All right.
Tell you what, let me just use this for now, and I think use this opportunity to turn it over to Dan, who is, oops, I thought I had let me find the right exhibit here. If I can, let me
Yeah,
just
please
turn it over to
proceed.
Dan and have him testify about what he's been doing and some of the plans he's made.
How you doing, Dan?
Good, how are you?
All right, and you were sworn at the prior hearing.
Yes,
You're still under oath.
yes.
And what would you like to tell us?
So we had this rendering made of this video to give some life to a, flat drawing that you saw before. So with your permission, I guess I'll play that.
Well, before you play it,
Yep.
is this going to be
Yes,
moved in?
this will be one of our.
Well, yeah, basics. And how would you identify it specifically?
It's MPG or
So
animation.
it's a video of-
An animation of the proposed site design and building.
Kind of like an animation of building elevation.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now you can go, Dan.
Why don't you just explain some of the things or highlight the things you want to in there, Dan?
Yeah, so we had that made just, again, to bring some life to it rather than just having a flat drawing. Some things that were brought up in the last meeting that, I took very seriously, took a hard look at over the last 6 weeks. So if I can, I'd like to address those. One was a proposal of underground parking. As far as underground parking is concerned, for a building of this size with only, four residential units, it's not cost effective or feasible in a job of this size. It would cost somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000 to do that. $30,000 to $50,000 per space is where people were coming back. So just to address that part. I also looked into what if we did knock the building down and moved it completely forward and tried to put parking in the back. Obviously, a lot that goes into that, but it also doesn't really fit. We would need 35 feet in the back for diagonal parking, along with a one-way driveway. That would also leave
a driveway onto Campbell Avenue, which, listening to the neighbors in the last meeting, seemed to be not wanted. Another point it was brought up was size of the building. Mentioned, and I just want to address that the size of the building, we went off of the footprint that is currently there. I didn't want to expand that. It's already, all over the place from years past. So going straight up, we thought was the best use. Why is that the best use? Two reasons. One, as kind of redeveloping, I'm looking to bring something to Haverford Town that doesn't exist in the center of town. There are 700 square foot apartments, 600 square foot apartments all over Darby Road, Eagle Road, in the Oakmont district, as well as Brookline. Many of those are older, bit run down, don't really command the rents that you would hope to get. We're looking to bring a new product, a higher end product, and once we're trying to keep those square footages up close to 1,000 square feet or above, to bring a higher level of tenant, a higher end product. It just does not exist in the middle of Haverford Township at this point. The other reason is because of clean energy, right? So the goal is to run the entire building off of solar. I've talked with O'Donnell Roofing and Solar. They believe that that's easily possible. And I also talked to Solarized Delco. They also think it's very possible. I believe that going green with solar and all kinds of different things is the wave of the future. I'm involved in 3 projects right now that are looking into it. And that is one of the reasons where we have this large roof, fully accessible to the south facing sun, and that will bring out the most amount of power to run this building. We believe we can get close to net zero. It's a little bit hard to, make that case because we don't know the usages of the apartments, or the space, or the first floor space, because it's obviously not built. Parking, so we obviously hear those concerns. I believe everyone in here knows that's a concern. It was a concern going in. So what we have now is we believe we have 11 spots on the property. I have 3 additional parking permits with the township, and we have ways of getting 4 additional spots. But my argument would be this, is that as a bar or a restaurant, which it could be zoned back to, they're servicing way more people than we are, right? Hundreds a day. We're servicing maybe 1 a day, maybe a couple a week. We're improving the parking in that area by bringing my kitchen and bath showroom to that area. It's less parking, it's less traffic than a bar or restaurant would be or was. And I believe if you look back at the last meeting, the complaints from the neighbors or the concerns from the neighbors, those were coming from other establishments in the area. They were not about what we're doing or what we want to do. Their concerns were trash being left from restaurants and bars, overnight parking, cars left on site. None of that would happen with our proposed plan. And any questions for me? Yeah.
If I can, A6.
Well, 6 was just the video, right?
I thought that was A5.
Now, 5 is the site plans that you introduced.
Bad. So that is, why have A5 as the animation?
Fixes the animation.
I'm bad. I'm bad.
A7.
So this is now
A7.
A7. I apologize. This is A7. These are the new parking plans. I have. Dan, if you could, just explain to the board what that's showing, what you asked them to do, and what it shows.
Sure. So we asked the engineer that did the survey to come up with a parking plan for us. They actually came up with two. I believe only one is really viable, but we figured we'd bring the second one as well. The one that I don't believe is viable, but we will present anyway, is you'll see 8 spots in front on the Darby Road part section. 8 spots in front. There's 2 spots to the left of that.
Wait, hold on a second, Dan. So A7 consists of 5 pages, right? Which
Go ahead.
page of
Sorry.
A7 are you referring to? Because the first page
2.
doesn't show parking spots.
Yep.
The second page does.
Second page.
Okay. So page 2 of A7. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So it shows 8 parking spots in the front on Darby, like facing directly into the building. It shows 2 spots all the way to the left. On the Darby Road side, and then it shows 3 spots on the Campbell Ave side that would require a new curb cut. That would also require tree removal and to get rid of the impervious space that's on the property now. Any questions with that?
But
Why
all,
don't you continue with what you wanted to say? And
Yep.
then-
Proposed design that you would like to implement.
The one that I just showed, the one we're just talking about now, ends up being 14. The 13 that you see there and 1 in the garage.
How about the other diagram?
Okay, if we go to page 3. So this is the plan that I think is viable. It's basically it's almost the parking plan that is currently there. Again, you see 8 spots in the front, 2 to the far left, and then 1 more in the garage, totaling 11.
And just to reemphasize, the total number of spots you're counting needed is a total of 18, correct?
18, correct, yep.
Okay, and you have some permits from the township for
I have,
additional
I have
parking?
three parking permits from the township already.
So that'd bring you up to 14 total on the
Correct.
proposed plan,
Correct,
and so you'd need 4 more spots.
correct.
Okay, and the idea is to lease them from Grace Chapel, which kind of brings us to the next set of the photographs in the exhibit, the 2 pages of photographs at the end. Could you just explain to the board what those show and who took them and when?
So I guess they're not marked, but it'd be the next page, page 4.
Oh, they're marked.
Oh, you have it marked.
There's 5 pages to exhibit A7. The photos are 4 and 5 of 5.
Okay. So these are pictures that I took 3 weeks ago. They are showing the Grace Chapel parking lot at all different, Monday through Friday, at all different times during business hours. Typically, I took them between 10 and 3 because I figured that's when the most amount of work people that would be parked in that lot. And that would be the most amount of traffic. As you can see, there's plenty of spots open almost every single day. My rough average was about 20 to 25 spots open per day. So we believe that there's plenty of space for additional parking there.
The permits that you referred to, could you describe where those allow you to park?
Yep. One of them is at I always mix up what these are called, but the old township building. And two of them are behind I would call it I guess it's the Oakmont lot behind, right off of Darby Road, above Eagle.
Do you have any other questions?
Not on this subject. What I thought I'd do next is have,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. This parking
We,
plan.
we didn't start questions yet.
Didn't,
But no,
okay.
no, he's done, and now we will. Go ahead,
Parking.
Jessica.
What is the drive aisle behind these parking spaces to allow a car to back up and safely get out of the property that's not labeled?
Sorry, what was?
What is the depth of the drive aisle behind the parking spaces?
There's two curb cuts that basically take up the entire width of those parking spots,
So in this parking plan, the cars would back directly onto Darby Road.
as they do now. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
oh, isn't there room for them to turn in the parking lot and proceed forward?
The three spots on the right, there probably is.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's some of the existing situation. Okay. Go ahead.
Ed?
Yeah, the question is, you didn't do an analysis of Grace Chapel to determine how many parking spots they're required to have according to the zoning ordinance, did you?
Who's required?
Grace Chapel is a structure within the Haverford Township, and they are subject to the zoning code as well, and they have to have so many parking spots. You analyzed it based on your perceived thing that they're empty half the time, or part of the time, or most of the time. But did you look at the zoning code to find out how many parking spots they would be required to have if they, or the zoning code?
I can tell you for a fact they don't have enough parking spots.
So they don't have any parking spots to be able to lease according to.
Well, they do. They're not using them. The parking leases they have provided.
I think the zoning code is clear that that's not allowed. to
Well,
share parking.
this board has allowed that numerous times in the past. So, I mean, that's, and the way the leases are structured are that, parking is not allowed by the businesses
In
that
other
are
words, you
leasing
wanted a variance for that.
well, they're not allowed to park there during official church services and things like that. So when the church is using the lot, to a volume standpoint, there is no off-site parking.
That's not the way the zoning code is written. So you're asking for a variance to allow them to park, have an agreement to park on another property that doesn't have
Yes.
suitable parking.
Yes. And we have decreased the number of spots needed for this site by over 18, probably by half from the restaurant.
Just trying to look at what I have to regulate, not.
Okay,
what-
well,
And I think we should run that by Ernie, so we're gonna take a 2-minute recess. Let's go into the caucus room, and you can ask Ernie your question, you should ask George. Off you.
Why don't you continue through with the presentation?
Okay.
And then what I think the board will do after that is when you're wrapped up, we'll ask.
Okay.
They'll ask questions.
sounds good. What I would like to do is, ask Mr. Weedman to come up and testify about the change in the structure, the increased volume, the structural issues that came up and things like that from an architect standpoint. And if I could do that, have Tom come up.
Sure.
I'm going to mark
It's word A8.
And you were sworn at the hearing, Tom, correct?
Yes.
You were. You're still under oath.
Thank you.
Thank you. What I want to do is point you to just the first page of what I've marked as A8. It's a 2-page document. And just if you could explain to the board, and I believe you've got a supplement to that, a drawing that also expresses that. But if you could just explain to the what you did, what your calculations are, and why you did them. That'd be great.
Okay. Last time there were some questions about the square footage, and what's being expanded, what the sizes are. So if you look at the first number, that's existing first floor area, that's the gross square footage at the first floor, at the exterior walls. Proposed first floor is slightly less because we're getting rid of the round part of the front. There's a round patio, covered patio in the front.
And Tom, with the existing second floor area, do you recall if that included the deck that's added onto the second floor? That's just the part inside the walls, correct?
Yeah, just the conditioned space. I didn't include the deck on that. So you can see that that goes up quite a bit.
And that's the same size, square footage wise, shape as the first floor.
Yep,
correct?
first floor is just going straight up.
How about the third?
Third floor, existing 782 square feet. And it'll go up to 3,546. Okay, now,
That's essentially, we've got an exhibit. Percentage wise, that increases.
do they have this?
We do not, we have a second page that shows that.
Now, A8 is
I
a
have
two-page document.
Correct.
Did you, maybe I just missed it, did you?
What's on?
Yes,
Did you
the
get a chance
second
to
page.
answer the second page?
The
Okay.
second page, that's actually the letter from the engineer to you.
Okay.
You could just address that and why you requested it and what it tells you.
At the last meeting, there was some talk about the foundations and how we're going to support the 3 stories. This is done all the time. We've done it quite a few times in the city. We just put out a house. There was a rancher in Broomall that's very similar to this. It was slab on grade, and we're putting a second floor on that. Also, we have a large industrial building down in Grace Ferry area that we put 2 levels of apartments up above the existing steel shop.
What is the engineer proposing to?
Basically, the existing basement, most likely, it would get reinforced, the stone. Basically, you'd go around and they drill in some rebar, most likely into the stone. They'd come in and pour new concrete right up against it to reinforce it. And then basically you would build up on top of the new foundation inside of the masonry wall. And then at the 1-story section, we'd be putting in a steel frame, most likely. It could be a wood frame. So that's something that we determined during the construction document phase, but that would go right inside the existing CMU exterior walls.
Now, I apologize because I wasn't here at the first hearing. At that time, did they qualify you as an expert?
I'm a registered architect, and I've done this several times. We do have a structural engineer that did this report, and I've done several buildings with him.
And we
You
can get,
offering
we
his
can,
testimony as an
we can,
expert?
we can bring the structural engineer in if required. I didn't know if that would be necessary with a certified copy of a letter from him, or a stamped copy, I should say, not certified.
I mean, at this point, there hasn't been any structural drawings put together. It's the report.
Right.
And then when you testified to the existing and proposed floor plans, you were referencing page 1 of the AA, correct?
Yes.
Just want to make sure, for purposes of clarifying the record.
Yep.
Yes, and we do have one.
So this would be a third page to A8. It appears to be an existing plan of structure itself. It references the address and then proposed and existing square footage. It was, it's actually prepared by you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Dated 6/1 of 2023. It's just an existing plan of the structure.
And
It's
it
the structure
shows,
itself. It has no reference to any of the property itself. It's just to the structure.
and it does show the exterior walls and the walls that will remain after the structural changes are made.
So the remaining walls are shaded in, and then along Campbell there, that one-story section, most likely that'll be coming out, and there'll be new wall at that side.
Are you through?
I do have one other area. I can just jump on here, Tom, and switch the exhibit. And what we have is another exhibit that I'm going to call. I do not have a copy of it, but it's a summary that Tom prepared of the zoning, of the zoning issues that are basically what he's done is show what we believe is our baseline, which is the drawing we showed.
Do you have a copy of it?
I will-
One even?
I have it on a thumb drive I can give you. I got it this evening.
I've got one copy here, and I think I have another one in my notebook.
If you have that, Tom, that'd be great.
Copies.
Sure.
I apologize. Kelly, you can blame it on me.
She should blame it on you. It's your fault.
I have multiple of your exhibits, so I do need a lot of them for the file.
I have them all on a thumb drive I can give you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you give me one, Tom? And Kelly was kind enough to say she'll make copies for the board.
Oh, wait, actually, you should make copies of that while we're. Marty, can we make a copy of this too? As well. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Should we, while we're making copies?
Yes.
So essentially, we're looking at the approved drawing as an assumption that that's as is for the structure, the outside scope of the structure. You know, like I said previously, we don't mind putting together a detailed list of all the prior changes with working with Kelly so we know what we've got.
I think from the discussion I had with the board, that would probably be beneficial.
That might take a while.
Yeah,
because it's-
I don't.
And I mean, we may have some holes, but we'll do our
Yeah,
best. to get-
and I think part of that to assist in an understanding of the site plan, because the site plan does not appear to have any dimensions as to setbacks or any bulk and area requirements on the site plan. So there's no zoning template up there with
Right.
what's proposed, what's existing.
Right.
So I think it would be helpful, and I think the board would likely hold the record open and wouldn't render decision, just to be able to help assist in its review of that.
No, I think that's good. And some of the numbers and calculations, scroll down below. We can show you, you know, so what we're doing is basically saying we want to use mixed commercial use with 4 residential units on it. As far as the area and bulk, Tom, if you want to talk about it, I mean, these are all the calculations he found, as to what exists and what the requirements are. So why don't you
Yeah,
walk through that?
so under the R6, to get a quad approved under conditional use, the area and bulk regulations.
And Tom, may I interrupt? Were any of these calculations based on, what were they based upon? Were they based upon Exhibit A5? or
This is like the density, that's based on what the actual site is, and this is straight out of the code. They want 8 units per acre. We're proposing
Did you
for,
use these that were handed to us tonight, Exhibit A5?
no, this would be
Reach out
our
to these-
zoning drawings that were used
There
for
was
this.
a recent site survey that we presented at the original, on the first meeting.
A3?
And it's also those surveys.
Okay, so the basis for this exhibit is
Yeah, I'm
exhibit
just,
A3, not
Yeah, I'm
what
just
was
gonna
handed
go
up tonight
through
as
and-
A5.
yep.
Okay.
I'll tell you what we have proposed and how it matches up. So 4 units, proposed, you'd need a half acre. Minimum tract size would be 2 acres. We're at just less than 0.2. Minimum tract street frontage, 200 feet, we're at about 194.86. Minimum building setback from street property line or other structures, it's 30 feet. Building coverage and impervious surface ratios, the building coverage would be, which is allowed, is 25%. We're at 43.9%. That's the existing building. Impervious surface ratio, 45% is allowed. We're currently, the current existing building's at 84.6%. And then we already went through the square footages per floor. You can see what's being added, what's being subtracted. So your total existing is about 5,180 square feet. We're proposing 10,638 square feet.
And again, I think, just to clarify, Tom, the square feet, we made it as, I don't want to say unfavorable to us as ourselves, but that's the air-conditioned and heating space, not the deck, right? The square foot for the second and third floor, so it's,
Correct.
this is the worst case square footage analysis for us, because it doesn't include, a couple hundred square feet of deck on the second floor. So that's essentially, we want to increase the volume of the building about twice, about 100%, 105%. By building the second and third floors up.
And is that depicted on A3?
Which is A3.
A3 is that the original plan submitted?
Which,
So the square footage, when you're talking about that the total 10,000 square feet, you said it wasn't including the deck side, is that evidenced on that plan?
I'm not sure. I know the square footage is, I believe, A5. The square
Probably
footage is.
Yeah, that 10,638, that's includes the third floor deck. Yeah, because that's covered.
Where did the existing square footage?
You showed that on the plan.
Existing is, the actual conditioned space, not including the second floor deck. It's the actual existing building.
Are you asking if there's a drawing that shows the existing versus the new? I don't think that is on there.
No, what I was asking is, you had asked him if this was a worst case scenario, that the 10,000 square foot wasn't including the deck,
Understood.
right? So I was asking if there's a plan that shows the building with 10,000 square feet that doesn't include the deck and what plan, and what exhibit that is.
There isn't one. Because the building's always had a deck since '02. I don't know if there are any such drawings that exist.
Go ahead, please continue.
That's really it I had for Tom. I was going to call Dan up again, and if you guys have questions, that's,
Was he going to address the second part of that? Regulations concerning non-conforming use in the building?
no, I'm going to address that. I've got a summary of that I can address.
Are you through with your direct, George?
Yes.
Okay. Jessica, questions?
I don't have any questions right now.
Ed?
No question.
Jesse?
No.
Neither do I. Thank you, Tom. Go ahead, George.
Let me just do one or two things real briefly, and I don't think we need this as an exhibit, but I just wanted to put this up and show you that the number of spaces for a restaurant is essentially twice of what one space for each 100 square feet of floor area. If we're saying the first and second floor and the lamplighter were, for dedicated to patron use, the second floor was supposed to be.
Why wouldn't you put that in the record, George?
You want to put this in the
I
record?
mean, if we're going to refer to it in the hearing.
Okay.
Hey, it helps your case. It
No,
doesn't make
that's
a
fine.
difference to
Yeah,
me.
so
But if
we're
gonna
essentially
refer to
reducing
we
it.
should mark
We can mark this, and I'll mark this and get you guys
And,
as
and,
A10.
and this is basically just what the zoning requires. It's a
Correct,
replication
this
of
is
the-
cut,
of the
this
zoning.
is cut right out of the zoning code. I cut and pasted it into a Word document, and that's verbatim from the zoning code. I'll just call that A10, zone parking summary.
Do you have a summary of the square footage of patron serving area of the existing?
We can get it from that drawing there. We know the whole first floor essentially, except for the kitchen of the lamplighter was for patrons, so it's probably about 3,000 square feet, give or take.
Thank you, Margie. Yeah. This, Ed, Jess, this is the third page of A8.
Thanks.
So it's page 3 of 3 of it. My handwriting's on there. It's already marked.
That's the,
This is 9.
that's a nice.
One for you. This is,
Jess, did we end up with another one?
what do you need? This?
Connect. Oh, yeah, we did.
Are we up to 10 now?
Yes.
All right. guys are set. I have, Jason House.
Wasn't 10 the parking
Yeah, this is
analysis?
actually A11.
This is A11.
Yeah, we made that
A11, got it.
A10.
Okay, so this is A11.
That's it.
Just shots of the house behind the lamp. Showing, we heard some testimony from the neighbor that was, the lamplighter was going to block a lot of sunlight and things going into the house. This is just showing that backyard, that neighbor. Showing that we don't think extending the height of the building will affect the sunlight detection.
A11 is 2 photos of property survey. Note that for the record.
These back, or?
If I'll just keep moving on then. Let me see what else we have. Let me just go to this exhibit, and we can mark this as the next exhibit, but this is the section of the Township Code regarding nonconforming uses of buildings and lots. And there are a lot of changes and suggestions in here, all of which are, at least in my mind, a bit confusing as to how to proceed with a process like this. One of them suggests going to the Planning Commission and getting their approval on a concept like this and then coming back and asking for a special exception. What we're trying to do is essentially, you've seen the project we're trying to do. We believe we meet the intent of all these ordinances, but I just wanted to lay out the requirements that we believe apply to the expansion of the use of this building. And we believe that we are meeting the intent of this, if not the exact specific requirements. So I just wanted to bring that up during my section here.
Sorry.
Sure.
What section of the code was that?
I apologize, I popped it down. It's on page 1. It is section 182-802.
So this is going to be Exhibit A12?
Yes.
And did he identify?
Yes.
Yes, it's the zoning ordinance.
That's what I just asked.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Chapter 182. Article.
And do we have a hard copy of this?
I do not have a hard copy of this either.
All right.
And
And I was
I
just
can-
talking with Kelly about, we need a complete copy, physical copy of all the exhibits.
I
So
will get all them to you in the morning, to Kelly's office. I apologize. I didn't know if this would actually be an exhibit or not. I mean, it's an ordinance, it's an
Okay.
existing
Yeah,
ordinance. If you want to mark it as an exhibit, we can, and I apologize for not having that.
Could I ask a question at this point?
are
Sure.
you done?
I am done
your-
with this. I was going to call up Dan and have him summarize a couple things and add, but I am finished with what I wanted to present.
So who would the question be directed to?
He brought this record forward here that is showing the code, and he says that they are trying to comply with it. I just wondered, can you explain?
Then go ahead. He
Enlar-
didn't have anybody testify to present it, so I suppose George is the only one to ask the question. So go ahead.
Enlargement of a non-conforming use, building, or structure, that's B, and that number D. Do you think you're complying with that section?
I'm sorry, B, what?
B.
B1B.
Yeah, I'm sorry, B1B.
On your
Yeah.
exhibit A12.
B1, B. Well, it gives us the approval, it gives us the possibility of going to the Planning Commission and getting approval for that.
No, I think it's.
So if we got that approval, then we could meet section B.
Oh, so another
Yeah,
one.
and it doesn't exceed 50% of the lot area. You know,
Okay, but it does exceed 50% of the floor area.
It depends how you look at the floor area, yes. We have, if you include that to
Well, I think-
include the deck area, the total volume of the building is included, is as proposed, is being increased by 105%. So it's about 2,000 and some odd square feet on the second and third floors of square footage.
You increased it by 100%, and this says you only increased it by 50%. Is that what I'm reading on?
Well, you're excluding all the exceptions. It says except if the planning board approves it, and this board grants a special exception. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so it was suggested to us that we come here first instead of going to the planning board first.
Okay.
And again, I'm flexible to go through this how we want. I understand the issue.
Okay.
You know, and basically the other exception is the non-conforming use or building predominantly of a non-conforming use of the land as opposed to the building. You know, the problem really isn't the building. The problem is the land the building's situated on and the zoning applying to it.
Or the problem is that you're expanding the use of a non-conforming use. By
Well, we could always turn it back into a restaurant by right. And
That's correct.
But we don't want to. We're thinking we're doing something that will improve
I'm not
the
arguing.
township.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just saying that.
And we're actually looking for help to figure out how to get this through. You know, because really, I think as we expressed in the last meeting, the township views that area as commercial. They just haven't zoned it commercial. You know, I think everybody in the township recognizes that's a commercial lot or a commercial use. What we're trying to do is make the square peg fit into the round hole, hopefully, and do something that helps the township, so.
Certainly understand what you're trying to do.
Yep. Let me see, if you don't have any more questions, I'll turn it over to Dan and ask him to make a few comments, and then
Okay.
we'll be set. Let you guys get out of here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Dan, tell you what, why don't you come on back up? Well, I'll ask you the easy one first. Anything you want to comment on of what you heard since you testified last time?
I mean, I think, you know, we're asking for a bunch of variances. I don't think that's any secret. But I believe that this is the best use for this property. It's a, you know, very tangled web with that property, always has been in Haverford Township. My goal is to clean it up, bring the best possible building that I can bring there to this for rental purposes on the second floor, but also to showcase our business. And 90% of my construction business is in Haverford Township. So we're here, you know, to serve the township, either directly or indirectly. There's about 30 people that work directly for me, or subcontractors, plumbers, electricians, you know, all those things. And we just believe this is the best use for this property.
Okay. And you do have some people here that you asked to come and talk about the project?
Yeah, several.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't believe so. I mean,
All right. And any questions for Dan or any?
Now, Dan, I just want you to understand, you know, when zoning relief is requested, it has to be very specific. That's why we're not even going to conclude this hearing tonight. We're going to ask George to prepare what I thought Bill Rose had expressed at the last hearing, site-specific relief. This is the current condition. This is what we need to accomplish your goal here.
Yep.
For every single variances that's requested. Okay, so with the parking, you know, it's a mitigating factor. We say this is a less parking intensive use, and we get that, and that's a valid, you know, potentially a valid argument. You know, but everything just seems so broad here. You know, we're going to increase the size. It has to be very specific relief that's requested. And it's a lot of work, but the analysis needs to be done before I think this board can make a decision. I'm only one member, but, you know, that's why we ask the questions that we ask.
No, I understand.
From my standpoint, Bob, just to help clarify, like we know the setbacks aren't right for the property from the property line. Do you want a list of each violation of that? That's, I guess,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful overall to kind of look at it, because in conjunction with A5, I think that would be helpful.
okay, understood.
Just for my clarification, so we're gonna go back. Before I own the property, there's obviously setback issues and things like that. But, so we have to address those as well, just for my clarification.
Not address them, identify them.
Yeah,
Identify
just to
them.
show
Yeah,
what they are. So the site plan, I mean, you have your setbacks already on, I want to say A3.
A3, yep.
But we can't tell what was the basis for the development of that particular plan. So A5, which is being submitted for purposes of showing and arguing that there is an as-built, what exists. The problem is that plan doesn't show any bulk area requirements or what the actual setbacks are relative to the site as is.
Okay.
So it would be helpful to work in conjunction with that plan if we actually saw what currently are the non-conforming setbacks, and then that get tied into what the relief you're actually asking for.
Gotcha.
It kind of works in conjunction.
Okay.
Are you making it better? This is what exists. Are you making it better?
Sure.
This is what exists. This is what we want.
Yep.
You make it better, you make it worse. The parking, you know, we understand. Less intensive than a restaurant or a bar.
Yep.
Just for example. So does anyone have any questions for Dan? Jessica?
I do not.
Ed?
No.
Jesse?
Yes, I do. So you testified as to, wanting to have apartments that are larger than exist. But you also, when you went through your plans at the first presentation, the third floor, which I believe you testified would be your own, used as your own, it's a rather large apartment by any, probably by any measure. I think it's over 3,000 square feet. So the other thing we need to consider is are you looking for the minimum relief? And, is there a version of this plan where you can work within the existing setbacks when you're expanding vertically? Is there another, way that are you, setting aside, the first floor is existing non-conforming. If you left that, footprint where it is there a version of your plan where when you extend to the second and third floor that you're working within the setbacks? Is that something that you could look at, to bring, to be asking for less relief?
Do you understand what?
Yeah, I understand the question. I mean, is it possible? I mean, yes. Is it the building that we want to bring to the township? And, I'd have to look financially if that honestly would make sense. So can it be built that way? Yes. Does it make sense for me to build it that way? I'd have to analyze it, but I would steer towards no at this point. But again, I'd have to look at it closer.
Well, if you look in Exhibit A11, the aerial photo of it, see how the second floor of the house, adjoining house, is stepped back away from the property line a little bit.
Yep.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, that's what he's asking you about, if that could be done with your building as well.
Away from the neighbor in the back, right? Okay.
So it's either in conformity with the setbacks or more in conformity with the setbacks than the proposed plan.
Yep.
Fair?
Yes.
Any other questions? No? I'll ask one. If we were to approve your requested variances, would you agree that the third floor apartment, which is going to be much larger than the other apartments, and you're going to live in that, never be divided into separate dwelling units? It remain one dwelling unit because that affects the parking and all of it.
So this came up last time, which I put some thought into. I would agree to that. My only, I guess, question to you would be, if for some reason in the future we wanted to make the third floor smaller and make the unit all the way on the right on the second floor 2 levels, would you allow that rather than just a straight?
I think what you're saying is limited, you would limit it to 4 units.
4,
Keep it
correct.
as 4 units.
Correct, yep.
Right, because that, to the parking issue, the requirement is per unit.
Yeah, and, I'll address that too. This isn't strictly just a straight development, financial play for me, right? It's my business, it's my personal home. If I was looking at this as just a straight development, I'd be coming in asking for probably 12 units to go in there, rather than what's proposed there. This doesn't really work financially as just a straight investment. But that, I didn't want to overdo it, and I think this is the best use.
So, and variances run with the property. So the conditions we impose would run with the property as well. So anyone who might come and offer to buy this from you would be precluded.
Understood.
Or it would be, as far as I'm concerned, automatic no. If they came in and said, we want to dice these up and make it into 10 units with the existing space. So, and I just want you to be real clear about that.
No, I
Because
understand.
that's a condition.
I understand what you're saying, and I think this is, I think this is a concession I made coming up with this plan, right? Like, I think that this is a good compromise of units for the building. It's why I didn't come to you and say, let's jam as many 550 square foot studios in here as we possibly can.
So then just to clear the record up, what I think I heard you say is that you would be amenable and agree to limiting it to only 4 units, apartment units.
Yes.
Thank you, Ernie. No other questions? Okay. Go ahead, George. You still have the floor. So, would it be best for you to talk off the record or have a discussion on the record about the analysis that? Off.
He knows what he needs to do. He has a question.
I'm gonna take a break and you can talk to him now because he's gonna leave. I think it might make sense. I think so. So, George, you're clear about what the analysis would consist of that was discussed?
For the variances, yeah, essentially you want the site survey superimposed over the A5, to show the setbacks and how all that fits together and how far off each setback is or each variance is on the property.
What is
Got
actually
it.
being proposed?
Yes.
And then what is existing, and then what's being proposed, and then how that shows. And then if you have any other questions, you can certainly always just call me.
Sure, okay, understood.
And Dan, you're gonna think about what would make sense in terms of a possible step back, because we are concerned about the residential neighbors. And I happen to be a little familiar with this. You call it a deck, I call it a fire escape.
Yes.
I was part of that case. I know what happened when it was built. I know what the patrons did from that deck, including using it as a bathroom, throwing beer bottles off of there. And I know the impact it had on the neighbors. I mean, there are things that you just can't erase from your mind when you hear the testimony. So we are particularly sensitive to the neighbors. My recollection is also that parking was a major concern, but the lamplighter customers, I think created more different problems than your patrons might create, because they were blocking people's driveways and then maybe taking a cab home, and people couldn't even get out of their houses. I mean, those kind of things are just unacceptable under any circumstances. And, I do understand how this could be a less intensive use, but the neighbor adjacent to your property in particular, I see your photo A11, and I hear you saying that, raising the height and putting a flat roof won't change, like the sunlight that goes onto that property, but as I look at the picture, I see a straight line on her property up the shadow peak of the roof. So, you know, I don't know if flattening that roof raises that shade line, if you know what I'm saying. And I'll show you the picture, it's your picture. Yeah, I know. If you know what I mean. So if it's stepped back a little bit, you know, then maybe it doesn't affect it as much. And, you know, the neighbors on balance might say to themselves, it's quieter. And you should talk to the neighbors, because off hours, if you say to them, you could park here, you know, it might alleviate some of their parking issues when they come home from work at night. You know, so I would really encourage you to talk to the neighbors. So now we took testimony from interested or parties at the last hearing, and I'm going to go through my litany again tonight because there are people in the audience, and some of them I don't know who they are. But with that, I'll ask if there's anyone that received certified mail that wishes to testify tonight. Anyone that received regular mail? Any other residents? Please come forward. And you testified last time, right? Are
I
you
did.
Kim?
Yes.
Okay. And you were sworn. You're still under oath.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
You were sworn in at the last hearing.
Yes.
You're still under oath, Kim. So what would you like to add tonight? You don't need to go through everything you went through.
Okay. So what I wanted to add was I did look at some of the surveys that I had done on my property, and I was correct. The current lamplighter home is 5 feet off of my property. It's 5 feet away from my garage, and it's 15 feet away from my home. So my home's, you know, I actually have a picture that shows you how close.
Yeah, you submitted
Yeah.
photographs last time.
Yeah, how close they are together.
Right.
So I guess I just want to continue to say that this is a residential street. These are residential homes. It's a nice street, and to have a 40-foot wall 5 feet off your property with, I think you said, at least 6 air conditioners going, you know, 5 feet off my property. And right now, as you can see, the 2-story portions of the homes pretty much kind of line up. But if he wants to extend this forward with the where the single story, I guess, porch is, so it's going to bring the 3-story area forward about another 10 feet, and then it's going to be the whole length of my property, 40 feet wall, 5 feet off my property. I am definitely not in favor of this. I love to garden. I love to be outside. I just feel like this is going to be an immense eyesore.
So Kim, if the additional levels were stepped back, and I don't know by how much, but stepped back to encroach less, so the property could be used tomorrow as a bar or restaurant.
I'm still having a hard
The
time.
property could be used tomorrow as a bar or a restaurant. And we know the effect that had on the neighborhood, right?
To be honest with you, I'd prefer that.
Okay.
I
Fair enough.
love my yard. I love to garden. And when you're in my backyard, you don't even see the single-story additions.
Okay.
So I can be out there. I can be, you know, entertaining. And it looks like from my property that I'm next to a small Victorian home, not this huge mammoth commercial property. And I guess one of the other things I don't understand is when this property went up for sale, and, you know, you could look online at the different, you know, real estate agencies, they were all saying that this property was under 2,500 square feet when it was sold. So I don't understand how they're saying that the current property is 3,500. When it was sold, you know, you know.
Well, they're not the realtors. We don't know. I don't know where anybody got any of those measurements, where the realtor got those measurements. I don't know. So,
But it's a residential street, you know, and at least now when I'm on my property, it looks like I'm next to a small Victorian home. There's one window that faces my property. With this proposal, there'll be 20. There'll be 6 AC units, 5 feet off my property. Strangers, you know, coming and going, and
we could ask and give a look where the AC units would be located, and maybe next time when we reconvene, you could tell us specifically where you would locate them, what noise mitigation could be put in. Did,
I don't know, will
So-
there need to be fire escapes in addition? For the apartment buildings? Will they be on my side as well? No fire escapes?
Kim, on one of these photos, there's a car parked between your house and the lamplighter. Is that your driveway?
That's my driveway.
And on the other,
This property is 5 feet off my line.
I understand. And on the other side of your house, there appears to be a large pave area. There's a couple cars parked in there, a white car, a silver car. What is that? Is your
That
neighbor's
is
parking?
what Mr. Quinn purchased that property when he wanted to expand and he wasn't allowed to because of parking. He purchased that property and he blacktopped that whole property over, I think it was Christmas break when nobody was around to see it. And I guess when everybody came back and they realized what he'd done, they didn't allow him to use it for parking, but that was his plan. So he had blacktopped that whole property.
But is that part of your neighbor's house?
Yes.
So your neighbor doesn't? Come here, Kim, let me show you the picture, so I know we're on the same page. So looking at this aerial, throw it back here.
Yeah, that's my neighbor's backyard.
So,
Their property also is about 90% blacktop, thanks to Mr. Quinn.
did your neighbor, I guess it's not relevant, so smack me, Ernie, but did he sell him the property? Did he lease him the property?
I believe he owns it, my neighbor.
Well, that's what I mean. Did he lease it to the former owner, Lamplighter?
No, Jack Quinn bought that property and blacktopped it. Like I said, over Christmas break when nobody was around to see what was
So
going
he
on.
bought your neighbor's house, is what you're saying?
Yes, he wanted to buy mine as well. He bought that house, and then when he realized the township wasn't going to allow him to use it for his parking, he sold it.
Okay,
So there's a new homeowner there.
okay. Any other questions for Kim? George? Jess? Ed?
No.
Jesse?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other residents of Haverford Township? Whoever, yeah, come on up. No, take your time.
Good evening.
Good evening. Cheese Club, right?
Yes, my name is Edward Gallagher. I live in Hastings.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and...
Edward Gallagher, Hastings Avenue, Haverford Town. 138, if you want to write that down. 138 Hastings.
What would you like to tell us, Ed?
We found out, I did find out that we had a director's meeting at our club last night. And we found out there's a meeting tonight, and they wanted to come by, and I was the only one available. We talked over the conditions that we knew of over a period of time in the last 4 or 5 years, and nobody in the club seems to object to what was seemingly proposed to fix up the Lamplighter property to make it look better than it is already. So I was just here to say that the club has no objections to what is seemingly proposed by the Penn construction people right at the moment. Unless there's any changes, we can take it from there. So we technically approve it. And we're on the north side of the Lamplighter. It doesn't affect us anything in the way of things, but other than that, the members all have no problem with the petition.
Okay. Any questions? George? No. Jessica? Ed? Jesse?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Rosemary Kane, 516 Brookline Boulevard, Havertown, PA. Oh, listen, okay.
What was your address again, Rosemary?
516 Brookline Boulevard.
And what would you like to tell us?
Okay, and I'm very happy to see that there's apartments coming to Havertown. I've been here for over 25 years, and I have a big house, and I would love to downsize, but there's really nowhere to go. I like up there because it's around, you know, we can walk to restaurants, we can walk to coffee shops. There's everything up there. I support the community and do go to the restaurants, the coffee shops, and CVS, you can walk. So I have so many friends who have lived here for years, and there's nowhere we can go. And we want to be in the center of town, and we want to be able to walk to restaurants and stuff. And so I'm really for it, and I have so many friends that are for it. And that's what they're saying. I've talked to the commissioners a few times, but I know a lot of them that had to downsize and move out of town, and they don't want to leave their friends. I love this community. I mean, love it. And I'm sorry for you, but I love being here, and I want to live around here, and there's nowhere to go. So I think it's
Any questions?
great. I'm hoping it'll get me an apartment.
Okay. George, questions? Jessica, Ed, Jesse? Anybody else? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Full name and address?
Steve Young, 22 Castle Rock Drive, Havertown, Pennsylvania,
Castle Rock.
around the corner from you.
What is it, 22?
22. I've been a longtime resident of Havertown my entire life, other than the 4 years of college. I agree with Rose that this building as proposed it's not like anything we have, and I would encourage more of the same to come. I live on a property that's basically 2 acres of land, a house that's just under 4,000 square feet. I would love to be able to downsize into an upscale apartment that doesn't exist. I love Havertown, don't want to leave Havertown, want to stay in Havertown, but I also don't want the property I have and the space that I have eventually when the kids move out. That's the one part. Second part is I'm pretty tied to the community. What Rose didn't tell you is she runs the Kevin Kane Foundation. The Kevin Kane Foundation in Havertown is incredible. And she's tied to a lot of people, and they do a lot of great things behind the scenes for everybody. On a little smaller scale, a much smaller scale, Penn Construction does a lot for the community as well. They give to, I'm involved in high school with football and lacrosse and other activities. They're constantly donating time, money, effort. I don't know if you're aware, but the green lights for Lily, they bought 700 light bulbs to give out in the community. They constantly give to youth baseball, youth lacrosse, the high school, the Blast. If you go to them, they ask. Unsolicited, there's a letterbox in front of his business that says, letters for Santa every year. He addresses that for the kids. So he's tied to our community, he wants to stay in our community, and he wants to build a top-notch place, and I'm all for it. Another part is, I actually sell him kitchen cabinets. I'm a kitchen cabinet manufacturer's rep. My territory for visualization is the Hamptons to Rochester, New York, back to Roanoke. I'm in hundreds of kitchen showrooms. He's building a boutique showroom that literally, most boutique showrooms are by appointment only. There's really not much foot traffic through kitchen showrooms. So worrying about parking and how much people are going to come in and out of that business, it's not a concern. Because again, I'm in hundreds of kitchen cabinet business. A lot of times, you can go to a kitchen cabinet showroom at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that says, make an appointment, come back to see us. So I don't get the whole parking thing, particularly when I pull in here tonight and we've built this beautiful building and I can't get a parking spot.
Get me started.
Okay? So I'm just trying to use a little common sense, but again, I think we're making a mountain out of molehill for parking spots.
But we have to address the point.
I understand. I understand your role, and I'm not trying to hear knock it.
Like, there's, based on the zoning district, the use of the property, there's minimum parking requirements. We know parking's an issue all over the township. There's an existing condition. Finally, Dan pointed out, or George, that this would lessen the impact of that.
Absolutely.
I told him straight out, helps him, but, there are other things that are working against, and in a sort of general way, and he punch me if I go too far. We're trying to suggest things you might consider, but
again,
we understand.
As I look at it, you have a gentleman that's probably going to lose money on a property to build it for himself and his business and make it a top notch. Again, there's not another property around, and we've been saying, what you guys did during COVID, allowing restaurants to be outside and continuing to grow, you go to Phoenixville, you go to these other places. We didn't have that in Havertown. We need to have that. The people want to stay here. They want to be part of the community. But you got to allow people like this to develop and do the right thing. Otherwise, we're just going to have nail salons and hair salons, and we got plenty of them. And that just honestly, we want to be Phoenixville. We want to be in Narberth. We want to have those things. So. Again, I would like to, echo Rose's point. I would be looking for an apartment like that myself eventually. And I'd just like to tell, again, what Penn Construction does in the community as well.
Okay. Question? George, Portia, Jessica, Ed?
No question.
Jesse?
No question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? No? With that, we will continue this case. When's our next hearing?
15.
We have cases scheduled for 15th, right, Cal?
15th is just, 2 weeks away? Do you think that's going to be sufficient time, or would it be better to move it to the next one after that?
What we're asking you to do is a big chore, a big task. We understand that, but we're bound to give very specific relief when it's requested, and not just this broad type of relief.
Let's shoot for the 15th, and if I can't
Oh.
do that, we're the only one scheduled.
You'd be the fourth one on the list.
Well, we'll see about that. I picked the order, but the next hearing after that isn't until
July
July
20th.
20th. So there's quite a gap. Okay. So with that, this case is continued to June 15th. And George, please call Ernie if there's any questions or you're not clear, because we're going to wrap it up that night one way or another. Yep. Any other, Jess, you want to move minutes?
Yes. I would make a motion to move the May 18th minutes into the record, or to approve them.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Oh, any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are moved into the record. Any other administrative matters? Cal, did you have a chance to go through the exhibit list? We need to be certain that we have a complete record. Now, George is going to provide us with some documents that he wasn't able to tonight. If he gives it the USB and you're okay with it, fine. Otherwise, please let him or Ernie know which physical exhibits are missing.
I was sitting here doing that as everyone was discussing, so that is complete. I have my list of things I'm missing. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with the animation video.
That'll have to be submitted on a USB. Yeah. Just give it to Kelly.
But yeah, I mean, if everything else, we'll figure it out.
Okay. For that, we are adjourned.